theme of this week's program is fruits and vegetables. Remember last week we talked about whole grains and how to pick whole grains. We made a great meal. Today, what are we cooking, Bill?
Tacos, fresh tacos, but a sort of kind of healthy twist on fresh tacos.
Right, right. So remember we talked about us doing everything from scratch so we know what ingredients we have in the food we eat.
And I think that's the real big thing is you can get tacos from Taco Bell, right, but you don't exactly see what's going into them.
That's right.
And when we make them here today, you're going to see everything. You're going to see, if you cut it with your own hands and you put it in there, you know that it's going to be wholesome, it's going to be healthy, it's going to be made from the right stuff.
And we also save on some of those ingredients that may not be so healthy for you.
I'm going to start on, for our tacos, the first thing we always need is our taco seasoning mix. Tacos without seasoning is just like a plain old hamburger.
Right.
And the tacos traditionally have been made from lots of different stuff. Ours today, what are we going to make ours out of?
We're going to make ours out of the seasonings that we have in the pantry.
All right. So first ingredients in our taco seasoning mix is chopped onion. We're going to use 3 tablespoons of minced onion, just available in the dried spice section in your supermarket. And once you have it in your pantry, you'll have it for the next 6 months. And it's great for every recipe. It's great on breads and in soups and in tomato sauces and a million others. Just right over here, this is spicy Mexican chili powder, and this is 2 tablespoons. We're doing half, so it's 1 tablespoon.
And you can use as little or as much as you want in your flavoring of your tacos when you use this, so that if you like a hotter taco, well, then you can go a little hotter with it. If you have somebody in the family that's not so keen on hot food, you can go a little softer on it.
I like it spicy.
You like it spicy?
I do.
Okay.
All right, next thing is going to be a half a tablespoon of cornstarch. And cornstarch, like we learned from the last time, is used to thicken.
I was just going to ask you, what does that do?
Cornstarch is going to thicken, so when our taco seasoning goes into our taco mix, and we're probably going to add a little bit of water to it, it's going to turn into gravy.
Oh,
and also,
okay.
it'll absorb up a little bit of the fat too. Whatever fat doesn't get, we're going to drain off the fat when we cook the meat, but there's always a little bit remaining in there. And this will sort of incorporate it into the sauce. So instead of it having that greasy feel, it'll be sort of.
So the cornstarch is going to help.
Cornstarch is going to be a big player in there. All right. Next thing is a half a tablespoon of dried red pepper. Once again, nice and spicy.
Little spicy.
A little bit spicy. Lots of what we call capsaicin. Capsaicin is the chemical in peppers that gives it its spice. So then garlic powder, and we're going to do a half a tablespoon of garlic powder, and then a tablespoon of oregano. All right. The next ingredient after the oregano is the cumin. Cumin is in every Mexican food out there. Cumin is what gives taco seasoning its unique flavor. It's used in fajitas, it's used in chili con queso, it's used in salsa, it's used in anything Mexican is going to have cumin in it. And it smells like a taco.
This is great.
It smells like Taco Bell. So we're going to do a half a tablespoon of ground cumin, which is one of my favorite spices on earth, and it makes a wonderful crack. And the first thing we're going to need are 2 medium onions chopped.
Well, we kind of got
this is a little bigger than a medium onion.
a monster onion.
So we're going to count this as 2 medium onions. I'm trying to cut these as basically as small as I can. And I'll show you a slightly easier way to do it if I hadn't sliced off that big chunk as an example. I'm making little lines in my onion about 1/4 inch apart. Get back in there. Then I'll slice it the long way from core to stem, same exact distance, 1/4 inch apart. And we will end up with a tiny 1/4 inch dice, which of course, in my line of work, has a fancy schmancy French name. That is called a brunoise.
A brunoise.
Brunoise. Doesn't it sound important?
Dice a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a little easier
We're
for
really
people to wrap
making
their head
these
around.
tiny, though. It almost looks like the freeze-dried onions.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm shooting for. I want really small as I can get it. And each time I move, not my knife, but my fingers, and if I move my fingers just 1/4 inch, I know I'll get 1/4 inch cut every time, same exact size.
Yeah, I don't do that very
And the reason why we cut things the same size is so they'll cook the same. I want my things to cook in the same amount of time. A piece of onion this big and a piece of onion this big aren't going to cook in the same amount of time. This one's going to be raw while this one is burnt, or this one is going to be cooked and this one's still going to be way raw. So you have to, that's the reason why we cut stuff. We want it all to cook the same. We want it to fit in our mouths. We want it to fit on our forks. 1 cup of chopped celery.
I'll get this out of the way.
So this is, that's 2/3 of a cup, all right. Again, we're going to want this to be bite-sized, so I'm going to cut this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the celery into little manageable size pieces. So this is really hard to cut this whole thing all the way across, but this
should be good.
and this are going to be nice and easy to manage. So I'm going to take nice little manageable sized pieces. If there was any parts that didn't look nice, that were brown or whatever, I can remove those. But this is really beautiful, nice looking celery.
I remember we're cooking this, so it's not like we're putting it out on a platter for people to munch on. So it can be a little bit beaten up,
Okay.
so to speak.
But we're lucky ours isn't.
Ours isn't.
All right. So I'm cutting these into little strips. This, of course, has a fancy French name as well. This is called a julienne. Now I'm going to cut my little strips in half once. And then same thing, 1/4 inch all the way across. I'm going to use a different knife than this. This is a serrated knife that's more for delicate items. I'm going to use a French knife.
Yes.
Go a little faster. Now, we're ready to start making our basic meat mixture.
Okay.
And again, we can use this, once this is completed, we could use this to make meat sauce, we could use this to make tacos, we could use this to make meatloaf, we could use this to make, any of a dozen things. You could use it to make a pizza. There's a lot of different stuff you can do with it. So our meat mixture right here consists of ground beef. This is 93% lean ground beef. That's very lean. That only means there's only 7% fat. Generally, leaner beef is slightly more expensive, but when you buy fattier meat, it's cheaper, but half of it melts away. So I'm going to put in my ground beef and man overboard. You can hear it now. That's the sound of it. That sizzle was what we were looking for. And now I'm going to add my ground turkey as well. And this is, I think this was about 2 parts ground turkey to 1 part ground beef.
Yes.
And the thing that we're going to be doing here is, this is technically saute. We're cooking it with very little fat over a very high heat, and there's going to be a lot of movement. But what's a little different between this and traditional saute is little bite-sized pieces. This, if we keep moving it, is going to turn into basically a big giant hamburger. So what we're going to want to do is kind of what we call a chopping motion. While we're cooking it, I'm going to keep chopping it with my spoon into smaller pieces, just making sure it's not sticking together. I'm going to keep stirring and moving. All right, so you may have noticed that we switched to a bigger pan. I was finding in that small saute pan that once we add all these onions and peppers and we're trying to make the food jump, I thought it was just going to kind of fly everywhere.
So even the professionals have to redo something.
We're going to add, we're about halfway through cooking now, so a lot of the nice fat and oil from the hamburger and the turkey are in the pan, and that's going to be good for us for sauteing our onions and celery. I'm going to use probably about half of that onion, and I'm probably going to use almost all that celery. Okay, and now with a couple of more good stirs, and remember the chopping. The chopping is going to be real important for this.
Because you want to make sure that this ground beef, if you left it solid in the pan, it would stay solid and you wouldn't know that the inside is cooked. Remember, with meat, you have to make sure that it's really well cooked through to make sure that there are no bacteria left in it that can make you sick.
Right. All right, there's a couple other things we're going to have to add now that we're almost done. We're going to put in a little bit of garlic and a little bit of pepper, and we got those right here. The garlic, let me get a nice clean spoon. Garlic is 2 teaspoons, and what we have here is like ready to eat minced garlic. This is fresh garlic. It's already been chopped up for you, and it's got all the wonderful garlic flavor without all of the work.
It's not in oil, so it's very fresh. It stays in your refrigerator once you open it, and again, it's one of those things that you can have in your pantry all the time.
And a half teaspoon of black pepper. That's a half teaspoon. And as opposed to going like this, which is what my mom always did.
And they don't fit as well on the taco shells.
And if I just did this, my little ribbon cut, in the end I end up with...
So who knew? Fold them in half and cut them.
Fold them flat. Yeah, let them flat, fold them over, so when you're cutting 2 leaves at a time, and then just as thin as you can go. Here's our tomatoes and our lettuce for our tacos. We're going to have to add some seasoning to our taco meat. All right. And remember, we got some cornstarch in there, so we're going to add, how much tomato sauce does the recipe call?
Just add the can.
The whole can?
Because I think we've got a lot of meat in there.
Okay.
We need to...
All right, so I'm really just making sure I mix it all the way around so every bit of it is getting covered.
So we're going to construct our tacos with our tomatoes and our lettuce. And we have some whole grain taco shells.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool thing. We were talking last week about whole grains, and these are whole grain taco shells made with whole grain corn. So it's got a little extra fiber in it, which is going to be a little healthier for us. And Taco shells are traditionally a big fried hunk of corn. They use what's called a masa flour, and in this case, this one is a whole grain masa flour. So we're going to get a little bit more of the benefit.
Fiber, right? You're going to get the benefit of it, like we talked about with the whole grains, and have your kids wash their hands. This is a hands-on meal, so have your kids wash their hands. Scoop the meat into the taco shell and have them construct their tacos and have fun with it.
If you don't mind, I'm going hands first in here. I always like to go lettuce, then tomato, then cheese. That's my preference.
Personally, I do lettuce, tomatoes, meat, then cheese. So
my 13-year-old likes to do the cheese first because she feels the meat melts it, and then you get the lettuce on top. You get that nice burst of crispness. But that is a beautiful taco. That is what we would call a crispy beef taco.
And so you have your taco. You have your vegetables in this meal. We have some fruit. Top it with some yogurt, and you're going to have a little bit of dairy. And you have a complete meal. And the family gets all the nutrients that you need out of one meal. Plus, you save money by doing a larger batch. You made your own seasonings, so you know that the quality of the food that you made is at its best, really, because you did everything. And it didn't take that long.